Let's make pho beef jerky. Since this is my first time making pho beef jerky, I went to my favorite place in Oklahoma City and got 2 orders to go. And this is what I'm gonna use for the ingredients for this recipe. Now I'm just gonna rip up all these jalapenos, the onion, and the basil that came in this pho, and then toss it in the broth while it reduces. I really think this is really gonna incorporate the flavors of the vegetables deep into the broth. They gave us these little packets of hoisin sauce, but these are like hoisin packets for ants. We ain't using these. So we'll go ahead and add our own. Now this gets easy from here on out. It looks like the raw meat on this one's gonna be weighing in at about a pound, just over 14 ounces. All we have to do is add the meat, then just pour our reduced stock right over the top of it. Honestly, I was a little worried that maybe we reduced the stock a little too much and that we wouldn't have enough to cover all the meat, but this looks like it's a pretty good amount. So the first thing we do, as always, when I use the pre-sliced meat, the meat tends to stick together. So first thing I do is run through it all and just make sure all the pieces get pulled apart. That way they all get fully submersed into that broth. Once it's all separated, you just want to toss that up really good, just really thoroughly. I'm really excited to see how this flavor pulls through. Since we put all the vegetables in the broth as it's reducing, I really think that's really going to take the flavors of those vegetables into the broth really well. So I just want to give this a really good, thorough mixing, make sure everything gets covered. Probably could have used a little bit more of that reduced broth, but overall, it's more than I thought it was going to be. Meat sounds. Now we're just gonna cover it up, put a lid on it tight, throw it in the fridge. All right, it's been about 2 days. The stuff looks pretty good. There's not a lot of marinade left at the bottom, which means all of it's kind of soaked in. Looks like it has really pretty even coverage. Let's get this stuff racked up. Now we're just gonna lay all these out here on the rack. No real secrets to doing this. You just wanna make sure that all the pieces are laying flat, nothing's folded over on itself. That way the pieces get dried evenly all the way through. And you wanna make sure that none of the pieces touch each other. That way it gets full airflow all the way around the piece of meat. Now in my machine, I know I could pretty easily do somewhere between 3 and 5 pounds of meat total in my 6-tray dehydrator. Being that we're only doing 2 pounds, I know we got plenty of room, so I'm not worried too much about maximizing the layout. I'm gonna set the machine at 140 degrees. I kind of know this machine pretty well. Based on the marinade, I think we're gonna run about 3 to 4 hours, but I'm gonna start checking it at 2.5 hours in. All right, I started checking it at about 2.5 hours. It ended up being about 3.5 hours all in. I like the texture of it. You can see it starting to pull apart. Not too done. No real surface moisture to speak of. Not real oil texture. I think this one's good. We're calling it done. All right, next thing we do before I start tearing into this stuff is we want to weigh our final product and see what this yielded for us. So I'm gonna grab my trusty Ascali scale, stack all that jerky up in the bowl. So it looks like this is gonna yield at about 13 ounces of jerky, giving us a yield of somewhere between 40 and 50%. All right, this stuff turned out pretty good in color, texture-wise, and the texture feels perfect for me. I don't like it too hard, and I definitely don't like it real soft. It has a good tear. Looks really good to me. I think so far I'm really happy with the way this turned out. All right, with the texture being good, the taste is still really important. So let's see, let's jump into this and see how much like noodle soup this ended up tasting like. It's definitely one of those flavors that you have to chew to really pull that flavor out. The more I chew on it, the more I get that broth flavor. This is my favorite pho anywhere in Oklahoma City, and I feel like I'd know it anywhere. So I'm definitely getting some of that broth, that identifiable broth that this place makes. Honestly, I thought it was gonna be a lot sweeter than it was. I kind of went in a little heavy on the hoisin. But you guys don't care what I think. You care about the taste testers. So let me go interrupt their day, yank them in here, and let's see what they think of this pho beef jerky.
Definitely get some of the broth flavor, and then some of the flavor of the veggies like in the broth.
Anything specifically identifiable, or just generally broth, generally pho-y?
Yeah, I think just generally pho-y. That hoisin sauce has a little bit of a sweetness to it. So overall, I think this is pretty good flavor. It's not super bold. It's mainly savory with a little bit of sweetness. I think it's pretty good.
You ready?
We can do it. Oh, I got the big one. I don't get the notes that I enjoy from a pho. The first flavor thought that comes to mind is mushroom. And that's an interesting one, and I don't know if maybe that's the hoisin. That's kind of.
See, I think I get the hoisin first.
Yeah, and that may be what what I'm tasting. I gotta say, I am disappointed.
A little underwhelmed?
Yeah, a little bit. It's not terrible, and if it was kind of framed a different way, maybe I wouldn't mind it so much. But I'd say it's probably a thumbs down for me on it, just because that
Missed the pho mark.
Yeah, it missed the kind of the notes that I was looking for.
So, how do you feel about pho in general?
In general, I pho with it.
You pho with pho?
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
I'm doing some searching here. I'm doing some soul searching. I'm digging for something here that's identifiable. So it's not like super bold or anything, but like if you know this is pho and you're really trying to explore the flavors, you can pick up on the complexities. It's not like salty or peppery or garlicky or hickory or anything like that. Very unique take. I think it's done probably as well as it can be. Overall, I'm getting down with this. So thumbs up.
All right, kind of a split score on this one. 2 thumbs up, 1 thumb down. Overall, I think it's a pretty okay flavor. We all kind of agree it just kind of misses the mark for pho. I think if we were gonna redo this again, we wouldn't start with the actual broth from pho. I think we'll try to recreate the pho flavor and go for a more bold, impactful flavor profile. Either way, this one was really fun to do. And if you're a huge fan of pho, definitely consider at least playing with a version of pho beef jerky. Thanks for making this beef jerky recipe with us today, and I'll see you next time in the test kitchen.